Hare Krishna. Keval Bhakt Prabhu, are you on the note? We'll read the pranam mantras before Prabhu joins or unmute himself. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Vidirayet. Shinvata Swakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hrudayantasto hi Abhadrani Vidinoti Suhritsatam नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Hare Krishna. I see Kevala Bhakti Prabhu is on Zoom. I cannot see him unmuting.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Srimad Swagata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridayantasto Yabhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsatam Nashtaprayeshabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavadinaishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam today. So I'll be covering the overview of Canto 4, Chapter 3. But I'll also read the first verse, 4.3.1, and then try to go over the overview. Text 1. Maitreyo vacha sadha vidvisator evam kalo vai driyamanayo jamatu swasurasyapi sumahan atichakrame. Maitreyo vacha sada vidvisator evam kalo vai driyamanayo Yamato swasu rasyapi sumahan atichakrame. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Maitreya continued. In this manner, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for a considerably long period. Purport. The previous chapter has already explained that Vidura questioned the sage Maitreya as to the cause of the misunderstanding between Lord Shiva and Daksha. Another question is why the strife between Daksha and his son-in-law caused Sati to destroy her body. The chief reason for Sati's giving up her body was that her father, Daksha, began another sacrificial performance, to which Lord Shiva was not invited at all. Generally, when any sacrifice is performed, although each and every sacrifice is intended to pacify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, all the demigods, especially Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and the other principal demigods such as Indra and Chandra are invited and they take part. It is said that unless all the demigods are present, no sacrifice is complete. But in the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha began another yajna performance in which Lord Shiva was not invited. Daksha was the chief progenitor employed by Lord Brahma, and he was a son of Brahma. So he had a high position and was also very proud. Enough purport. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhudale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Bhaskatya Deshadarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare I humbly seek the blessings of all assembled Vaishnavas, and thank you for the opportunity to read and summarize from Srimad Bhagavatam from your own purification. Please forgive if I add my own interpretation to the summary. So I'll be summarizing from Srila Prabhupada's purport and from a lecture given by His Holiness Bhakti Vinod Swami. So we just covered like chapter 2, which talked about Daksha cursing Lord Shiva and the feud that happened between Lord Shiva and Daksha. And as mentioned in today's purport, the first verse purport, Vidura had two questions for Maitreya. The first one was about the fight, and second one about Sati getting insulted by her father Daksha when she goes uninvited to this yajna. So in this chapter 3, we see the title is the talk between Lord Shiva and Sati. So it is mentioned, we will see how Sati, after coming to know that her father Daksha is doing a sacrifice named Vajapeya, she basically is very excited to go also participate, although she has been not invited formally because of her connection with Lord Shiva. So here in this chapter, we will see several lessons about decision making. So typically, what we'll see in this chapter is how Sati approaches Lord Shiva about her proposal to go, and then Lord Shiva gives her the advantages or the pros and cons of going and not going, and finally makes a recommendation that she should not go. But then Sati still makes her own decision and goes, and she gets insulted at Daksha's place, and then she realizes how true Lord Shiva was in judging the situation, and then she was insulted so much that she decides to give up her body. So we will see all that in this chapter and the next chapter. But the message from this section or this chapter is around making a decision. So typically when we make a decision, we make a decision based on our own desires, or we make a decision which favors our desires or our emotions or our attachment, or sometimes even out of duty. In fact, if someone makes a decision out of one's duty, then one makes decisions by his own duty, and that sacrifices his emotions, desires, etc. For example, a mother will serve her child, compromising so many things, like she might forego her sleep or her meals to serve a child. So although she forgoes her own desires, but because she is serving her child out of true love, and she gets this internal satisfaction that she has served the child, which is which basically trumps all her own desires. So we also see how the gopis similarly they basically compromise everything, like their husbands, their family, their children, and when they heard Krishna's flute, they basically just left everything as is, and then they ran out to meet Krishna. So from an external point of view, this will seems very odd that they compromised everything and then went for Krishna, but that's kind of the high class decision they took because of their love for Krishna. So practically for us, how does this apply? Our decisions also primarily now in this material world is based on material attachment. Sometimes, of course, because we are in this sadhana bhakti process, we force our decisions to be based on Krishna consciousness, or sometimes we force our Krishna conscious duty, but we are mostly pulled by our material desires. So here we are seeing that Sati is making a decision, will make a decision, and Lord Shiva also did not force at the end. he's giving the pros and cons of her potential decision, but he was not forcing, although he had the power. And also, sometimes we see in this material world that we want someone else to make a decision for us. That is because, like, we want to get the best of both sides. In other words, we want to influence someone making a decision for us in the way we want it, and also later we don't want to blame ourselves. We can always say, if it didn't work out, we can always say that the other person made the decision for us and he is to be blamed. So we want the decision to be favorable for us, and also don't want to be responsible for it. So that's kind of the mentality we have in this material world. But here we don't see Sati manipulating or influencing the decision made by Shiva, Lord Shiva. So this is kind of the first lesson, that we should not be manipulating a decision-making process. I mean, if you're consulting with someone, then we should not be trying to partially give them data in the sense that they will not give a neutral decision. I mean, that's one lesson that comes out, that Sati does not do it here. And also, here we see that Sati knew that Lord Shiva is a very respectable personality, and also knew Daksha was a very responsible personality, or respectable personality in his own social circle. And Lord Shiva will say in this chapter that if she goes, then she might face some very severe consequences. And Lord Shiva makes her make the decision. So Sati then, after hearing Lord Shiva's pros and cons, she will go in and out. She will think about going, not going, going, not going, and then finally she will decide to go. And one of the reasons that one of the reasons that Sati will use for her reason to go is that her father is the one who gave her the body. So because the father gave her the body, she has all the right to go, and then she will be very much welcomed by her father. That will be one of her arguments. But then Lord Shiva will counter that, saying that all her father did was give her the body, because that was his duty. He was kind of this Prajapati who was asked to create more and more bodies by Lord Brahma. And Lord Shiva will remind her that Daksha has not done anything else except for giving her the body. And Lord Shiva will say that although he gave you the body, I mean, he is full of envy and he's a cruel-minded person now because of his pride and position, and that she should not go. But again, because Sati being a woman, Prabhupada writes in one of the purports that because she was a woman, she was weak by nature, she was emotionally moved, and then she takes the wrong decision. Then we will see how Lord Shiva becomes angry in the next chapter, and he becomes very angry on Daksha, and then he creates a demon to kill Daksha. So maybe another lesson for us here is that, I mean, we are also like Sati here is kind of torn between husband and father, and she is making a difficult decision to choose between husband and father. And we also like face these kind of dilemma of situations where decision making is very, very difficult in certain situations. And one mistake that Sati did here is that she did not consult with others. I mean, she made her final decision just by her own desires or by her own will. And this is something that we should not take decisions alone. And it might be very, very detrimental or very severe in consequences if we take decisions without consulting with other personal people. And we have several examples, like from our scriptures and Puranas, like, for example, King Dasarath always would consult with Sumantra and Vashishta before making a decision. And we also have to be careful about who we are asking. I mean, if that person is unfit and inexperienced, then we cannot consult them. Or if they are influenced by their own desires or their personal stake in the matter, then it's not good. And we also have examples of how Ravan, who was being given unintelligent decisions by all his ministers except for um, Kumbhakarna and Vibhishan. Um, Kumbhakarna, although was his own brother, but he, as soon as they were in this discussion, he said that, "Oh Ravana, you did not ask us permission before kidnapping Sita, and because that led to all these consequences, why are you asking us for decision recommendation now?" But then Kumbhakarna also says that, but anyway, because I'm your brother, you have fed me, and I will support you in whatever decision you make. And Vibhishan, as we know, did not change his stand, and he always was saying that this is not right, and then he should return Sita and he should beg pardon to Lord Ram. But again, the other ministers were like always fearful of Ravan, and they said that, oh, whatever decision he wants to take is the right decision, that he should fight and he should try to protect, etc., etc. So again, the message here is that we should definitely consult with others, and we should know who to consult with. And from Bhagavatam and other Puranas, we hear that always consulting with devotees, a devotee's decision is very, very, or a devotee's direction or guidance in making a decision is very, very important, because he has the added input from his super soul in the heart. I mean, from the Vaishnavas, from the mercy of Vaishnavas, from Guru's mercy, or from scripture. So when we consult a senior devotee, then they have guidance from their super soul, from their guru, from their strength of performing bhakti, etc. And we know that Arjuna also, in the battlefield, took his decision based on Krishna's guidance. I mean, we can always say, oh, Arjuna had Krishna next to him, and that's why he was able to consult. But also, we have the devotees and Vaishnavas who are representing Krishna in our lives. So we can always consult with them. And finally, we'll also see that Sati, in the next chapter, we will see she immolates herself, and she gives up her body. And then that also was a good decision in the overall scheme of things, because Daksha then realizes his mistake, then he's punished by Lord Shiva, and then he begs forgiveness, and then he changes completely. He becomes a good person. Similarly, we know from Mahabharata that Dhritarashtra, after losing the war, he made this wrong decision. He realizes that after losing the war, and then at that time, he transforms based on Vidura's advice and chastisement. And then he left home, and then he perfected his life. Similarly, we see also Srila Prabhupada had to take decisions when his business failed, when his wife was not cooperating, and basically because of super soul guidance and Guru's guidance, he was able to make the decision to take sannyas. And because of that, the whole Krishna conscious movement started, and it has helped so many people come out of this attachment to this material world. So again, main lesson is that we don't want to make decisions alone. And in that case, we might be sort of doing something like a suicide, a spiritual suicide, where if we don't listen to the instructions and guidance we get from our senior Vaishnavas and seniors, then it might be a spiritual suicide. And the only way to basically not do that is be very humble, and then listen to instructions from superiors, and also focus on our strong sadhana. Because when we do strong sadhana, like hearing and chanting every day, and reading Srila Prabhupada's books, then we will be able to make good decisions based on Krishna's mercy and the mercy from the whole bhakti process. So we should utilize Krishna's resources for making decisions, and that is the main message that comes out of this section. So with that, I'd like to conclude the